Creator and sustainer of all things and all people, you are the source of all wisdom and light. Enlighten our minds to receive your guidance so that you may lead us into true wisdom. May all that we say and do in the service of this county, whether as elected member or as officer, be in accordance with your will and for the good of your people. Amen. Evacuation procedure. In the event of an evacuation, please follow the instructions of the officers who will assist members of the public, members and officers, including anyone who may require assistance to leave the building safely. Mobile phones. May I ask all members to ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are switched off or set to silent so that they do not disturb the meeting. Webcast. Please note, this meeting will be filmed for live or subsequent broadcast via the Council's website. Notices will be on display at the meeting explaining the arrangements. Those attending the meeting, including in the public gallery, are entitled to film, record and report the public proceedings of meetings they are permitted to attend. In accordance with the Council's standing orders, this right relates to the proceedings of the meeting. Attendees are asked not to deliberately photograph, film, zoom in on, retain, publish or circulate the contents of members' or officers' laptop, tablet or phone screens, as these may contain confidential, exempt, personal or sensitive information. Anyone who believes they may have inadvertently captured such information should not publish, share it, and should not notify Democratic Services. Members should also be aware of their responsibilities to not display any confidential information on their screens during a meeting of this nature. Finally, members, please note there will be a refreshment break at around 3:30 p.m. We now move to agenda item number 1, Chairman's announcements. It is with great sadness that I report the death of the former leader of the County Council, Mr. Nick Rushton. Mr. Rushton was a member of the County Council from 1989 to 1993, representing the Ashby-de-la-Zouch electoral division, and 2001 to 2025, representing the Breedon electoral division, which in 2005 became the Valley electoral division. During his first period of service on the County Council, Mr. Rushton served mainly on the Economic Development and Employment Committee and the Environment Committee. In 1992, he became a member of the Policy and Resources Committee, the committee system equivalent to the Cabinet. Following his re-election to the County Town Council in 2001, Mr. Rushton served as a member of the Scrutiny Commission. He became Cabinet Lead Member for Highways and Transportation in 2005 and was appointed Deputy Leader of the Council in 2006. After a short period away from the Cabinet, he became Deputy Leader with the Resources portfolio in 2010. In 2012, he became Leader of the Council, a position he held until 2025. He was a highly respected leader across the political spectrum, whose focus was always on the residents of Leicestershire. Mr. Rushton chaired the Combined Fire Authority from 2015 to 2024. On the national and regional scene, he was a former Vice Chairman of the County Council's network and a past spokesman for finance. In May 2026, Mr. Rushton was appointed an honorary alderman in recognition of his many years of distinguished service to the residents and communities of Leicestershire, guiding the County Council through periods of significant challenge and change. This response from members to his appointment as honorary alderman demonstrated huge respect for his leadership of the council I'm sure members will wish to join me today in a minute's silence for Mr Rushton, after which I will allow those members who wish to do so to give their own tributes to Mr Rushton. I will start with any group leaders who wish to pay tribute to Mr Rushton. Mr Harrison, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It is quite an emotional time. I can only describe him as a wonderful son-in-law, a wonderful husband, an outstanding father. He was a man of great character, resource and strength. His strongest point would be friendship. He was able to make friends with people and other organisations across Leicestershire and then into London with other organisations. He was truly an outstanding person. His friendliness, but his ability to sort of take any stress from a situation was amazing. I can remember the speed in which he used to chair committees. On one such combined fire authority, close to Christmas, everybody piled in, sitting there thinking we're getting on. 20 minutes later, we were done. People came out and they looked and smiled, and I said, that was fast. He says, well, they don't be bothered here. They need to get home and do the shopping and stuff. So it was that sort of wonderful, warm nature. He could always see a softer side to any argument or any dilemma. And he had a wonderful character, a character of strength. And it's very rare in politics to see people who will listen, because normally people don't. They made their minds up, and that's the end of that. He could negotiate. He was relaxed and very, very comfortable. He'll be sadly missed here, but trust me, he's going to be more sadly missed by me. I've known him over 30 years, and his wife and son and close family. He was a really, really wonderful person to socialise with. We could often meet at events or family gatherings and have a drink. We both preferred whiskey, so that was another great bonus. We could have nice, happy times and wonderful memories. And I can only speak so highly of him, and with sadness that he's not here today. Thank you all. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Mrs Taylor, would you like to pay tribute?
Thank you. I just want to say well done to Mr Harrison for getting through that speech. Must have been very difficult for him. It's with great sadness that I stand to speak today on behalf of past and present Conservative councillors and our wider Conservative family to pay tribute to our friend, colleague and former leader Nick Rushton following his death on the 21st of July. Nick devoted an extraordinary part of his life to serving the people of Leicestershire across more than 3 decades as a county councillor, first representing Ashby-de-la-Zouch and later the Valley Division. He helped train the county we know today. He served in many roles, culminating in 13 years as leader of the county council, a position he held with conviction, determination and an unwavering commitment to the residents of Leicestershire. Those of us who worked closely with Nick knew that public service was never simply something he did. It was an integral part of who he was. Nick was a formidable political leader. He possessed an exceptional grasp of local government understood the importance of sound finance, and never lost sight of the responsibility we have to the taxpayers we serve. He was decisive, principled, and never afraid to make difficult decisions when he believed they were in the best interests of the county. But behind the public image was a man whose qualities extended far beyond the council chamber. He was loyal to his colleagues, generous with his time, and always willing to share his experience with those coming into local government. I count myself among the many people who benefited from his advice, support and encouragement. When I first arrived on the county council, Nick helped me navigate a world that was entirely new to me. Later, when I had the privilege of serving as his cabinet member and then as his deputy leader, I came to appreciate even more the trust he placed in those around him. When Nick stepped back to undergo treatment, I was honoured to serve as acting leader. It was a responsibility I carried because of the confidence he had shown in me over many years. Even during the most challenging periods of his illness, his commitment to this council never disappeared. He remained interested, engaged and determined that the work of serving Leicestershire should continue. He was always at the end of the telephone for me, and he played his full part in all the big decisions. He remained the elected leader of this council. I was simply keeping the seat warm for him until he was able to return. Many people remembered Nick for his directness. He was not a man who dealt with uncertainty. You always know exactly where you stood with him. Yeah, that directness was accompanied by a wonderful dry sense of humour, often delivered with perfect timing and a completely straight face. And his comments could lighten even the most difficult meetings. It was a quality that earned him affection from friends and opponents alike. Nick's contribution extended beyond this authority. As chairman of the Combined Fire Authority, as vice chairman of the County Council's network, and through his work representing local government nationally. He was a tireless advocate for county councils and the communities they serve. I've received many kind messages from across the country, from councillors and colleagues alike, who worked with Nick over the years, and the themes were remarkably consistent. There was huge respect for Nick. People remembered his directness, his honesty, and his ability to get things done. But above all, they remembered a genuine gentleman who was a pleasure to work alongside. However, perhaps the quality I admired most was his resilience. Throughout his illness, Nick showed remarkable courage. He faced immense personal challenges with characteristic determination, dignity, and humour. Even when confronted with circumstances that could have overwhelmed many people, he remained steadfast and positive. That strength of character was an inspiration to all who knew him. More than anything else, today we remember a husband, a father, a grandfather, a friend, and a colleague. Those were the roles of which he was most proud of, in that order as well. Our thoughts are especially with Daniela, Bertie, and all of Nick's family. We know how much they meant to him and how much their support sustained him throughout his years of public service and during his illness. Only a couple of months before his passing, it was a privilege to stand in this chamber and propose Nick as an honorary alderman of Leicestershire County Council. It was a fitting recognition of a lifetime of service and one that meant a great deal to him, to his family, and those of us who had the privilege of working alongside him. His seat in this chamber may now be empty, but his influence on this council, on Leicestershire, and on the many people whose lives he touched will endure for many years to come. His leadership, his counsel and his friendship will remain woven into the fabric of this authority for generations to come. On behalf of Conservative councillors past and present, I offer our deepest condolences to his family and place on record our gratitude for his friendship, his leadership and his remarkable service. Thank you, Nick. You will not be forgotten.
Thank you. Mr Mullaney, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and I add my condolences to Nick's family for his passing. Nick gave many years of dedicated service to Leicestershire, working incredibly hard for the community as leader of the county council and previously as county councillor, and his service on the fire authority and many other organisations that he served on. And I think everybody in the county council had a respect for Nick, for his work, his determination and his abilities. And I think that was demonstrated in the recent meeting of this county council, where we were all very glad to be able to award him the Honorary Alderman of Leicestershire, and there were many tributes paid to Nick there for his many years of service to our community, and I'm very glad that this authority was able to show Nick our appreciation for all his work over the years. Nick was somebody who you may well have disagreements with, but he was always somebody who was very witty and very humorous in dealing with disagreements, and would often, disagree with you in a very friendly way. He was a man of great hard work and ability, and he will be very sadly missed. And again, I just pass on my condolences to his family at what is a very difficult time for them.
Thank you. Mr Meyer, is there anything you wish to add?
Cheers. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to echo what my colleagues have said, but add a little bit of my own flavour of how I know Nick. I've known him just in this council chamber and as a county councillor, but as a leader he was magnificent. He took over at, shall I say, when he stepped back at turbulent times. I don't want to go over it, but when he came in, it steadied the ship, as they say, and we never looked back. The organisation grew and it strengthened, and that was a positive, and that was just because Nick was in charge. And I think a lot of people forget back what happened 15 years ago because of how he steered the ship and how he steered the county council in the right path and in the right way, and regained its reputation as being an excellent organisation and an excellent authority. But the thing I can say is that Nick, you could always find him in the corridor here at County Hall, or maybe out in the county itself. You could always have a quiet word. You could always tell him your grievances or differences, and he'd listen. And that's the thing. See, he was a leader that would always listen, and he'd always tell you if he could help, and if he couldn't, he'd just say, "Joel, it's just not one of those things that we can look at this moment in time, or something that we can take forward." But you've got that feeling that you've got an honest hearing from him, and that's what you want in a leader. You know, we might have political differences, but we're all here for the betterment of our residents here in Leicestershire, and we want the person at the top to be able to be that person that listens to everybody of all political persuasion and tries to make that difference for the betterment of the residents of Leicestershire. And I feel in Nick that's what we had. He'll be sorely missed. Obviously his illness took us all by shock and surprise, and please add my commiserations to the family here, and all of our commiserations as well. And I think we'll all be there next Friday at the funeral. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now open up to any of the members who wish to pay tribute to Mr Rushton. If you could keep your speeches to around 2 minutes, I would be grateful. Mr Bray.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to speak because obviously I had interactions with Nick, both as leader of the of Hinkley Bosworth Council, but also the Lib Dem leader on the Fire Authority. I like Nick a great deal. He would definitely be missed. I like his straight talkingness has been taught. His love of short meetings, which I shared, and his sense of humour was always great. What I always found with Nick is that even though politically we were polar opposites, you could say, right, 80% we're not going to agree on. Park that. Let's work on the 20%. And I really found him somebody who you could do business with. I occasionally used to bump in to him at the football as well, and we used to have a bit of a laugh and a bit of banter there. So. Bertie, Daniela, Dan, the rest of the family, really sorry to hear about the loss of Nick, and I do hope to get to his funeral next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I extend my sympathies with the family and the wider family as well. So even though obviously we knew it was something that was on the cards, it still comes as a very big shock to everybody that knew Nick. So my first real interaction with Nick on this county council was, I'd only just been elected, I was full of enthusiasm, way too much confidence probably, if I'm a little bit honest, and like a peacock I decided the best way to make my mark was to publicly challenge the council policy. That was swiftly followed by very much a closed-door conversation, one-way conversation at that with Nick. And I'll just say it probably wasn't a conversation, it was more of a lesson that he taught me, and he made it abundantly clear where I'd gone wrong, and he certainly put me in my place. Now, a week later, completely out of the blue, the phone rang and it was Nick, and he invited me to Cabinet to present the very idea that he'd just berated me for in private. And I made my case, and when I'd finished, he'd turned around and Nick simply said, "Great idea, Craig," and recommended it for Cabinet for approval. Now that is the moment that taught me a lot about Nick's character and a lot about Nick's leadership style as well. See, challenge was welcome, but embarrassing your own team in public wasn't. Nick became a mentor to me from that day on, and I've never forgot that lesson. And as many members have already said today, his sharp wit is something that he's legendary for. And quite frankly, nobody was safe. Doesn't matter what political party you were. We had everything from the King of Harborough to the milk tray man, or in my case, just simply Gobby. I've spent the first 6 months calling me Chris. That's something else that Nick was not particularly great at. He did, I think, the leader of the Leicestershire Conservatives as well. He didn't actually get his name right for 4 years. So, yeah, we're doing quite well on that. Somehow Nick could completely dismantle any argument, but leave the whole room crying in laughter. You'd still walk away smiling, even if you'd just had a roasting. He never hid behind scripts or he spoke from experience and thought on his feet and got straight to the point. It was a rare gift and one that earned him respect from across the chamber and far beyond. I'll remember Nick not just for his remarkable service to this council and for the North West Leicestershire District Council as well, but for the friendship that he gave so freely and the humour he brought to this chamber. So thank you, Nick. We'll miss you enormously. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr O'Shea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to, say how well me and Nick got on when from the first moment I actually came on the council. He told me the way that this council worked, having been on a district council. He says this is totally different. And his enthusiasm to help people, to understand and to listen, went far beyond anybody else. I mean, the lad, I call him the lad because he was younger than me, but he had this ability to work with different political leaders, as we've heard this morning. You know, he could berate them over the phone, but then over the chamber, but then he could work with them afterwards. He was a man of understanding. He was a great family man, and that's where a lot of his love was for his family, for Danielle, for Bertie, and his family was very important to him. And when I lost my wife, he was a great help to me. He showed how, empathetic he was, and he supported me, and basically then he said to me, make sure that you go forward. And the next thing I knew, I was on the cabinet. So he gave me a job to do, to take my mind off things and to do. And he always supported his team here. And he worked hard for the people of Leicestershire. I'll never forget the words he said to me. He says, don't let people berate you, just work hard and do your job and you'll do well. So rest in peace, Nick.
Thank you. Mr Grimley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I'd just like to echo what everyone else has said so far. I don't want to go over, because I mean, Nick was a great man, but I just wanted to mention a couple of personal reflections. Nick and I both served on the Fire Authority together, and that was a good chance for me to get to know him and also to speak to him about things that are going on in my patch as well, Birstall, and he was extremely helpful and always pointed me in the right direction. He couldn't necessarily do something there and then, but he'd tell me who to speak to, which is good. He was very, very helpful as a new councillor to the authority. The other thing about Nick, which I did notice when Bertie was around, his son, how affectionate he was for his son, and he did sort of show the human touch. He's not just a great politician, but he also had the human side as well, which I thought was great as well. And it'd be a great loss to his family, friends, and all his colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr King.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So as it happens, I actually first met Nick in the late 1980s when, for a period of time, I was actually living in northwest Leicestershire and I was active in the local Conservative Party, and I do remember meeting him at a few social events as he rushed past or dashing to his flash car, which he certainly had a love of. And but I'm not sure he remembered that. But many years later, our paths crossed again when I was a councillor and then leader of Harper District Council. And we worked together during the pandemic crisis and the previous round of local government reorganisation. And they were difficult times, requiring difficult decisions. And Nick, I give him his due, he never shied away from making them. And as we've heard, his style was short, it was direct and to the point. It wasn't to everyone's taste, but nobody was ever left in any doubt where they stood. I arrived at County Hall in 2021, and as has already been referenced, he would usually greet me as the King of Harborough. And I may be a king, but there was only one Nick Rushton. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr Poland.
Thank you. Nick is a towering figure in Leicestershire County Council, not just in recent years, but I would argue over the history of our council. He was a real statesman of local government. That's a term. He was a man who commanded respect, not just in Leicestershire, not just in the East Midlands, but across the country in local government. And certainly my experience of him when I was first elected in 2017 was someone who was massively confident, very direct, someone you definitely didn't want to get on the wrong side of, and in that sense he was someone that, as I say, as a new councillor, there was that very much that respect and for what he said and what he did. But a lot of us here that were on the council previously will have seen the strength that he imparted in full council, and that's absolutely part of his character. But what maybe fewer people have seen is what I saw after I started attending cabinet briefings when I became a scrutiny commissioner in 2001, and that is a man who genuinely listened to what you had to say, had real respect for your opinions, had the strength to be able to listen and take on board what you say, but also say very clearly when he disagreed with you and present that with confidence. So for me, that is really what made him a great leader. And that's something that I think for however long I've got left in my career, not just in politics, but in whatever I do, I will take with me. And that is, a great leader is not someone who shouts over somebody. It's not someone who says, it's my way or the highway. It's not someone that ignores what colleagues are saying. It's someone that listens, that can take on board, but once a decision is made, has the strength to carry it through. And he did that in abundance. And that's why I think he was one of the great leaders that this council has had. I'd like to put on record my deepest condolences to his family, to Dan, to his son Bertie, who of course was a colleague to many of us in the last council, to Daniela. I don't know Daniela, but I send my deepest condolences to her and to the whole family at this incredibly sad time.
Thank you everyone for those wonderful tributes. We'll move on now to agenda item number 2, declarations of interest. I invite members who wish to do so to make...
We'll come on.
I invite members who wish to do so to make declarations of interest in respect of items on the agenda for this meeting. I assume that all members will wish to declare a disclosable pecuniary interest in the notice of motion on local government reorganisation. The Corporate Governance Committee on the 23rd of June 2025 approved a dispensation for all members to allow them to take part in any discussion and vote on any matter relating to the office they hold at the County Council, so all members will be able to stay in the room and vote on this matter. I would remind members that in accordance with Article 2.03, they must act in the capacity to which they were elected to the County Council and not speak on behalf of any other local authority whilst acting as a county councillor. Are there any other declarations? Yeah, Mr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just a minor personal interest. My wife does work for Leicester City Council. She's an administrator. She's not in any position of management, but I'm here of a free mind, not being influenced by her. But it is just a personal one. I just wanted that to be put on the record. But I will carry on during the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Beg your pardon, Madam Chairman, I was a little slow there. The declaration you read out, did that include people who were members of local district councils as well? Thank you.
Yeah, agenda item number 3, notice of motion. Members are reminded that speeches must be relevant to the motion before Council and should comply with the Members' Code of Conduct and the Council's standing orders. Before I call Mr Mullaney, I understand that he wishes to move his motion in an altered form and that the seconder, Mr Bray, concurs with the alteration. Under Standing Order 16, the consent of the Council is required before the altered motion may be moved. The giving or refusal of consent must be signified without discussion. Is the Council content to give consent to the alteration? Thank you. Consent. Yeah. Thank you. Consent having been given, I now invite Mr Mullaney to move the altered motion. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The government's proposals for local government reform in Leicestershire are an outrage. They have ignored the opinions of the 88% of Leicestershire residents in the consultation who opposed city expansion, and the opinion of almost every councillor in the county who objected to city expansion. They ignored the opinions of the 70% of Leicestershire residents who supported the option of keeping the city the same as it is and having new North and South Leicestershire authorities, the 3 unitary option and an option supported by the boroughs and districts across Leicestershire. This flagrant ignoring of the views of Leicestershire people and their elected representatives by this government is what motivated me today to call this emergency meeting of the County Council to debate the government's proposals. And it is what motivated me and the Liberal Democrat group to bring this motion today, opposing the government's plans, opposing Leicester City expansion and opposing one authority for the whole of the rest of Leicestershire and Rutland, and calling for the government to go back to the drawing board and come back with something that is more acceptable to the people of Leicestershire. This meeting is an opportunity for this council to have its say on the government's proposals. It is also an opportunity for this council to send a message to Leicester Mayor Mr Soulsby, a message to the government, and it's a message that is very plain and it's very simple, and it is this: get your hands off Leicestershire's towns and villages. We will not accept the forcing of hundreds of thousands of people out of Leicestershire and into Leicester City against their will. We will not accept the forcing of villages and towns with their own identities in the county into a city conurbation. And we won't accept being bullied by a government that ignores local people's opinions whilst funding our community in Leicestershire worse than almost any other community in the country. We will oppose city expansion, I hope, here in this council chamber today. We oppose it outside in the streets as we did earlier today, and we will oppose it, if necessary, in the courts if we have to demonstrate the strength of our opposition to these proposals. In addition to opposing city expansion, we also oppose the creation of one authority for the whole of the rest of Leicestershire and Rutland. We oppose it because we believe it would be too distant and too remote from local communities. In my own community of Hinckley, many people fear their views will be marginalised if we end up with one huge Leicestershire and Rutland authority, maybe based many miles away in Loughborough or somewhere very distant from our community. And we're also worried that we may well see the end of many discretionary services that councils like Hinckley and Bosworth deliver to their residents, like community events and supports and grants for local community groups. But we also opposed one authority for Leicestershire because we believed that it would open the door to Leicester City expansion. Back in October last year, I put a motion to this council opposing one authority for Leicestershire and opposing Leicester City expansion. And I said at the time that if the Conservative opposition and the Reform administration continued their policy of pushing for one authority for Leicestershire, it risked opening the door to Leicester City expansion, because the government would look at the population of Leicestershire as about 750,000, look at the population of the city, about half that at 375,000, and they'd say, we need to equalise those numbers. We need to move some people from Leicestershire into Leicester to make the numbers more equal. And sadly, that is exactly what has happened. They have now come forward with a proposal that will see hundreds of thousands of people being forced out of Leicestershire and into Leicester in order to balance the numbers. If, on the other hand, we support the proposals that the district councils were arguing for, and which 70% of the respondents in the consultation amongst the population of Leicestershire were arguing for, which was 3 authorities, a North Leicestershire, a South Leicestershire, and a city on the same boundaries, you'd have 3 authorities of roughly the same size, and you wouldn't need to expand the city. Now look, there is agreement amongst the bulk of members here today that we are against city expansion, that city expansion is wrong. And we have a route out of city expansion set out here today. So as a council, let us come together and say to the government, drop these terrible plans for reorganisation in Leicestershire. Put them in the bin. Go back to the drawing board and come up with new plans that will give proper representation to local people in Leicestershire. Let us say today, no to Leicester City expansion into the county, no to one authority for Leicestershire. Let's have proper democratic representation for the people of Leicestershire that can represent local communities effectively and well. Government, think again, drop these plans, end city expansion, end one authority for Leicestershire. Let's have proper democratic reorganisation in Leicestershire that can see local people properly represented by the authorities that they want. Please support this motion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mullaney. Mr Bray, will you second the motion?
I will second the motion and reserve my comments till the end. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now open debate on the motion. Members are asked to keep their remarks relevant to the motion before council and, where possible, to avoid repeating points that have already been made. I understand that an amendment has been submitted, and in accordance with our usual practice, I will invite the amendment to be moved at the appropriate point in the debate. Mrs Taylor, please, will you now speak and move your amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry.
No, so Mrs Taylor, we need to have the general debate first before we move your amendment.
Mr Dan Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I want to start by making it totally clear that I strongly oppose any expansion to the city boundary. That's been my position from day one, and it's been my position when we met with the Mayor. We were not going to do that. We wasn't going to go that way. This position is strongly reflected across the Chamber. Whilst I support a single unitary for Leicestershire and Rutland, I do not think the Secretary of State made the right decision. The city boundary expansion has generated the greatest concern amongst our residents and communities and businesses. We very rarely talk about businesses. They're there as well. They've got their way of life. They've got their taxation that they understand. Who knows what the new city government's going to do? They don't. From the outset, this Reform UK administration has opposed city expansion plans. It's worth reminding that the 12th of November 25, this council, here in this council chamber, voted and agreed a motion to oppose any expansion of the boundaries of Leicester City Council, and agreed the business case for a single unitary for Leicestershire and Rutland. The city's subsequent decision by the Secretary of State has heavily centred on the city growth, city economics and the benefits that expansion could bring to a city Leicester. You could quite easily say it was party political decision. It gave no mention of the thought to the economics or the sustainability of the surrounding areas of Leicestershire and Rutland, its residents and its business communities. It was just heartless, no thought, no understanding, just got on with it. Leicester City Council was clear about the lack of evidence around the financial sustainability. Now, I want to make you think about that. We did all this modelling. The sustainability is critical. How are people going to live? How are businesses going to work? How's the economy of these councils going to work? Not very well. Not very well. Ill thought out. Reorganisation must create councils that can withstand future financial pressures and deliver excellent public services. We found no compelling evidence that expanded the city boundary would improve the long-term financial sustainability. The local government across Leicestershire and Rutland as a whole, in fact, our evidence has shown significant risk arising from the disaggregation of services, transfer of assets, increased complexity and the loss of economic scale. Disaggregation is about how it all works, how we pull one cost out, who provides a service. Leicestershire provides a fantastic service for its people, both in children and adults. This is going to be a nightmare, trust me, I'm not exaggerating it. The government's own consultation received more than 6,600 responses for Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. The results showed overwhelming opposition to the expansion of the city across all respondents. Only 7% expressed support, while a whopping 87% were against. Majority and democratic. That was the way it should be, or should have been. Maybe it will be. The level opposition matters. It's not listened despite those views. Government has chosen to proceed with the city proposal and associated boundary expansion. Today we have residents gathered outside this meeting exercising their democratic rights to protest peacefully. They are there because they care about their communities, their identities, the future shape of local government. Well done to you today. Thank you for being here. They care about Leicester and Leicestershire Rutland. It means to them. I want to place on record my thanks to those residents for making their voices heard. I'll be writing to the Secretary of State to ensure she is fully aware of the strength of local people, the concerns raised by residents, the significance of the protest taking place today. I've already put in my motion seeking legal advice on the lawfulness and the robustness of government decision. Making progress, subject of advice, will consider further steps, including any legal remedies appropriate to the ongoing forward. Now, we should probably hear next week, with a bit of luck, and if it's favourable, well then we'll have to take a deep breath. I personally will talk to all my colleagues and leaders around the country to see...
Could you sum up your sentence,
all right,
please?
okay, sorry, I'm under the cosh. Excuse me. All right, but I will be seeking common ground to try and do something. Our proposal for single unitary council covering Leicestershire, Rutland, would deliver around 40 million of annual savings. Savings create the council significant scale of resistance, preserved existing boundaries, identities and protected high-performance services, providing simple, straightforward platform for future devolution. It would have avoided the fragmentation of services.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Your time has elapsed now. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Dr. Bloxham.
Thank you, Chair. I support this motion. The city land grab is ill-conceived, it's undemocratic, and it's got everything to do with bailing out the city finances and nothing at all to do with increasing local government efficiency. The City Council has itself admitted that the City Council is not financially viable after 2027, but dipping into the pockets of county residents, apart from being manifestly unfair, is only going to be a short-term solution. It's not going to solve the ongoing financial problems and mismanagement that have plagued the City Council. That's the real reason it's in trouble. It also contradicts the government's own guidance. The guidance note said originally that existing districts should be the building blocks of any new councils. But the plans that have been accepted cut across districts willy-nilly, which is only going to increase complexity and cost. And most importantly, the city expansion does not enjoy public support. An overwhelming 87% are against the land grab, as we've heard. And not just mildly opposed to it, the people I speak to in my division, and I'm sure it's the same for most people here, are vehemently opposed to the land grab. So we all know these things, but I don't think everything is lost. The decision was only made a few weeks ago. Nothing has been implemented yet. And as we know, we have a new government now. The government that started this process has gone. The local government minister that okayed this worst of all possible proposals has been fired. Yeah. So the new government is not bound by this poor decision made a few weeks ago. And Andy Burnham has positioned himself as a keen supporter of local government. I've got some quotes here from Andy Burnham. He says, "For too long, decisions have been made about people, not with them." Doesn't that describe the land grab that we're going through now? Another quote, he believes in the dignity and wisdom of ordinary people that places trust in them and their communities. Then shouldn't he trust the people of Leicestershire? And as recently as Monday this week, he said, "Too many communities have been expected to accept decisions made hundreds of miles away in Westminster. 1,000 times yes." So the city land grab contradicts the PM's principles, and this gives Andy Burnham a chance now to show that his words are more than rhetoric. The previous government's approach was flawed, and more importantly, he gets to genuinely show that he respects local democracy. So I support this motion today, so thank you for bringing it, and I hope the government listens.
Thank you. Mrs. Pendlebury.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As so many have shown today, there is a lot of anger around the formation of the Unitary Council, and people are right to be angry. There has been no engagement with residents or discussion as to what people want. It isn't devolution at all. It is a raid on local councils and a power grab organised outside of the area. I am sure we are all deeply disappointed with this government and their backroom deal. I have to say, though, I'm also deeply disappointed with our Reform and Conservative colleagues. Not one person I spoke to locally wanted a single council surrounding the city, and I feel had they not chosen an unbalanced, huge, single unitary surrounding a small city, and instead gone for what he advised and what most of our residents wanted, the 3 equal unitary councils, then maybe, just maybe, we would not now have a single portion of our Leicestershire towns being dragged kicking and screaming into the city against their will to even up the numbers. I would also like to thank personally all those who showed up today. It is your views that matter, not ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Balls.
Thank you very much indeed. And thank you again for bringing this motion, Mr. Bray and Mr. Mullaney. It makes a huge difference as well that everyone seems to be on the same page today. Too often in this chamber we are opposed in ideas and ideology, but today we stand as one, and I think there's a real strength to that. And I know the residents who are in attendance today and those watching at home will agree with that. We are stronger together, especially in moments like this. And I want to extend my thanks to each and every one of you. It's not easy getting out of work, childcare, spending the afternoon in your garden and come in here. It makes a difference. And outside it was a fantastic atmosphere of protest. So thank you for that. I want to share a personal story. I was raised in Thurmaston, 3 doors away from the county. And I remember my dad, I lived on Humberston Lane, that's where I lived. And I remember my dad used to grumble and moan. And he used to look enviously on at the neighbours who the county would get their bins and do the roads. And the school was in the county, and I went to a city school for a little bit. And I just thought it was a moaner, you know, fathers can be. But he actually had a point. And now I'm older, and I listen to all your views, and I read the evidence. He had a real point. The residents who have got used to a high calibre of service in the county are going to be faced now with a substantially different service. And they didn't sign up for this when they bought their houses. When they decided to live in the county, they weren't expecting this. They were expecting to live and continue to live in the county and have the services they wanted. I'm a firm believer of identity and place. And when you go and live in places like Syston or like Birstall or like all these places that are going to be taken over, you sign up to being in the county, to feeling part of that place. This is being taken away from them undemocratically, and that is not fair. And what makes it even worse is that they went out for views, and overwhelmingly they rejected it. And they've gone against the views and wishes of every single person who responded. And beyond that, I know lots of people like you on my weekly door knocking who didn't respond, sadly, to the consultation, but hate this idea. It's time that things were changed. The strength of opinion is overwhelming within this chamber, out on the streets. And common sense dictates if it's that strong, something has to change. I really hope they watch this. I hope they listen to all your voices. They watch all the press that are going to put it in the papers and on the news tonight, and they listen to the strength of feeling. Because if they don't, I dread to think what the future looks like for us, because as Mr. Harrison said, the future looks very dim if this is the route they're going to go down. So thank you for letting me speak, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mrs. Bottomley.
Thank you. It's actually really pleasing to stand up and know that we're pretty much all in agreement. I know we were warned not to kind of repeat points over and over again, so I'm just going to focus on the one thing that I think has been the most horrifying is just the complete lack of democracy of the whole thing. It wasn't in the manifesto. There was no mandate to push this forward. The timeline has been absolutely bonkers. And then it is just frankly insulting to ask people's opinion, get an overwhelming response and turn around and go, actually, no, we're going to do what we fancy doing anyway. And I just feel so angry and cross, and I'm running out of words, so I can't find them, for all the residents that took their time to be engaged. You know, we run consultations all the time, and it can be quite tricky to get people involved in things like this. And the strength of feeling was so strong, and it's been ignored. And, you know, we're living in a time where trust in politics is quite low. We have to really, really earn people's trust. They feel like they're not being listened to. And now they have the evidence, they're not being listened to, and it's just horrifying for everyone involved. So I'm so disappointed for our residents, and I wholeheartedly support this motion today and thank everyone who worked towards bringing it.
Thank you. Mr. Meyer.
Madam Chair, the murmur goes. Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to speak. It seems to be quite an emotional day with a lot of councillors standing up and speaking against the option the government has chosen, which baffles me because the option chosen by the government was always a possibility. It was one of the 3 submitted. Its chance of being chosen were high, as it was the only option that delivered 2 similar-sized councils and ticked a lot more of the boxes in the government's criteria, some things my Lib Dem colleagues have conveniently overlooked in this motion. I'm not here to bat for the city. They are more than capable of doing that themselves. I merely state the obvious that proposals that constrain the city boundary were unable to be looked at favourably, especially in light of city expansions elsewhere in the LGR world. This was a pretty obvious oversight on the administration's part by not negotiating with the city and limiting the size of the new Leicester Council area. By not negotiating, they left the city with a free hand, and boy did they play it. I suspect the leader caved in to the demands from the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats against the city, and who are now clearly upset with the fact that ultimately they have no power or influence on government. Now let's turn to the motion. It starts off with the council condemns the government's proposals. Very strong words from our Liberal Democrat colleagues, and it's being supported by Reform and the Conservatives, so them too. I remember when the Lib Dems were in government that stripped this council bare. Funding gone, youth services gone, highways budgets decimated, community grants and support gone, Shore Start centres closed. The list is endless. The Conservatives may have overseen this council then, but those 5 years of funding cuts brought council services to their knees. You know what I didn't see there? Not once. A motion brought forward from them condemning the coalition government. Arguably, what their government did was 100 times worse for the residents of Leicestershire than this decision taken now to streamline councils. The second paragraph refers to residents being dragged into the city. On this, I think the emotions have got the better of my colleagues. The proposal agreed do not increase the boundary of the city of Leicester, not even by an inch. The city itself will remain on its existing footprint. What is changing is the administrative area of the new council. The city stays as it is. The new council was just deliver services over a wider area. Take, for example, Charnwood. The town of Loughborough is the largest town, but it hasn't taken over any of the smaller towns and villages. It just delivers the services it does to those villages and towns. The boundary of Loughborough has not really changed since the mid-70s. If councillors are worried about the services that the new council will deliver to its residents, then that is an entirely different point, and one which is not referenced in this motion, so I take it isn't a worry. Madam Chair, I could go on and dissect each and every point on this motion. However, I suspect I will run out of time, and then you'll call me like you did Councillor Harrison. So let me turn to the legal opinion. It's been mentioned that we might legally challenge this decision. Well, actually, there isn't any at this moment in time. I was told, and along with the other group leaders who were present at the meeting, that legal opinion will be back with the council potentially next week. I am surprised that we are having this meeting this week when we don't know if there is any chance of the council to successfully challenge the decision. If the motion is to let off steam and have a go at the government, then I can understand, but it could have waited for our September meeting. A legal challenge will cost hundreds of thousands of pounds and any numerous hours of our senior officers' time. 4 weeks post-decision, I suspect that, in all honesty, the administration know that the chances of legally challenging the decision is slim, and slimmer still signing off hundreds of thousands of pounds on legal challenges when they were elected to cut waste and will ultimately have to face the electors again next May. Devolution. I think one person mentioned it, but they mentioned it in a different context. Devolution is very important for us. Businesses, universities and colleges in Leicestershire and Rutland see this as the most important. So when you look at the consultation responses, that's what they said. And when the council, it's the most important that which council delivers which services for them. The fact we don't have a strategic mayor puts us at great disadvantage to our neighbours in the East Midlands who already have a strategic mayor, and the powers that come with it and the hundreds of millions of pounds of money and investment that flows. The government has made it clear they want LGR to happen first before they sign off a strategic mayor for LLR. This motion, if supported, would lead to a delay in LGR, and this will impact and delay us getting a mayor and the hundreds of millions of pounds of investment that follows. The time for negotiations and talking to the government and other authorities was before this decision was made. They allowed us ample times and access to officers and ministers at MHCLG. I know this firsthand, and as one of the leaders, many leaders, 4 or 5 of us in this council chamber, and some sitting in the audience there.
Thank you, Mr Maher. Your
Just
time
one
has
sentence,
elapsed.
Madam. There are only a few short months left until the new unitaries come into power, and this is where we should be spending all of our times and energies and resources on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs Broadley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't believe what I've just heard, to be honest. I lived in the city when I was younger, and I didn't like it. So I moved to the county, to Oadby and Wigston, where my children went to school and now my granddaughter goes to school. I want to remain in Oadby and Wigston, not in the city where I left, but in Oadby and Wigston, because living in the county has provided me and my family a better life. We get our bins emptied. We're not afraid to go out at night, which I know people are in the city. I don't want to live in the city.
Mrs Broadley, can you redirect to the chair, please?
Sorry, it's emotion took over because of hearing the rubbish that I just heard. I'm sorry about that. Most people in Oadby and Wigston, and I'm not going to say 100%, but the people that the councillors there have spoken to are totally against going into the city. They don't want it. We've had it hung over our head for a number of years. Oh, you're going to go into the city, he needs a bit more land. He needs to be able to build his houses. Well, not in Oadby and Wigston, he's not. We don't want it, and we will fight and argue until it's impossible for the government not to listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Charlesworth.
Thank you. It's disappointing we're here today discussing this, using our valuable time. Every government, council, whether it's district or county council, has the right to make their own policy. We've heard a lot about legal challenge today. Those policies, as any lawyer will tell you, cannot be challenged. Whether they're in the manifesto or not, those policies can be adopted, and once they're approved, it's policy. You can't challenge it. But you can challenge process. Some of you may remember Snibston. We had a big time with Snibston a few years back, and the Friends of Snibston did a judicial review. Went to the High Court, Royal Courts of Justice. I went down to witness it, and the challenge there was the process, the consultation, listening to it. Unfortunately, judges threw it out. So I think that's pretty slim grounds to go down, and the only thing I will agree with Mr Maher on is it's going to be expensive if we do go down that route, and I think the lawyers will say you will have little chance of success, which is disappointing. My residents told me many years ago they wanted to be no part of the city. I knew this before this process started. I'm angry that we have to be here today to discuss this. I'm angry with the Labour government that's foisted this upon us. I'm angry with Peter Salisbury, who's now sitting in his office in City Hall, rubbing his hands at the thought of all this extra land and extra money. I'm equally angry with most of the councillors in the districts and the county who engaged in this process. You didn't have to. We were told it's the only game in town. Let's be part of it. Well, you engaged in that process. You've not got the result you wanted. Now you're going to challenge it. Little chance, I'm afraid. Just imagine at the start of this process, if we'd collectively turned around to the government and stuck 2 fingers up to them and said no, we might be in a different position now if we'd been awkward here, as councils, as councillors and as residents are, just turned around to the government and said no, go away.
Thank you, Mr Fowler.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In case anyone hasn't noticed, we have a new man down in number 10. Mr Burnham has been distinctly vague about a lot of his policies in the opening weeks of his tenure, but he has been rather vocal on one. Unsurprisingly, as a former regional mayor, the Prime Minister has done a lot of talking about localism, taking power away from Whitehall and into the hands of local authorities who are closer to their communities. Party politics aside, I couldn't agree more with the PM's rhetoric. However, talk is talk. Action is another thing entirely. With LGR decisions like this one, the Labour government has presided over one of the largest betrayals of local democracy that this country has ever seen. Nobody asked for this. You can see that with the amount of residents that are here today. Whilst Burnham didn't order this, he is now responsible for it. If he really wants to give local people a voice, he should put his money where his mouth is and put a stop to this disgrace.
Thank you. Mr Crook.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There is absolutely no justification for the government's decision other than to politically serve the Labour Party. A proposal made by a Labour mayor, approved by a Labour government with absolutely no democratic backing. 87% of respondents to the government's own consultation opposed this boundary expansion. 87%. And our Labour government proceeded anyway. Residents of my division rightly feel like their voices are being ignored. So today I address the Chamber as a voice for the residents of Kirkby Muxloe, Leicester Forest East, Thurlaston and Glenfield. We did not ask for this. We don't want this. We wholeheartedly oppose it and we won't be ignored. Last year, the Reform administration twice requested the people of Leicestershire must be given a referendum on LGR. Our first attempt didn't succeed, so we brought it back in November. And that time the Chamber backed it. We believe wholeheartedly that the people should have their say. Unfortunately, the government can shove a petition in a drawer or ignore a protest. And as we've seen, it could even read a consultation, see 87% opposition and quietly proceed as though it had read nothing. This motion objects to the city boundary. It calls on government to go back to the drawing board, and it adds a clear call on the government to safeguard local democracy, confirming that if the LGR timetable slips, residents will not be left without a vote for a single day longer than necessary. If they ignore our voice on this decision, we will use the ballot box to have our say. Madam Chairman, our residents, particularly those within the proposed expansion, are desperate for action. The least we owe them is a council that fought for them properly and together, rather than use their future to score political points. I support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Did you know it's actually a solar eclipse this month, and it only happens about every 30 years, and it can make you do some really weird things, and I think I'm in one of those today because I totally agree with Mr Harrison, the Reform Group, and even some of the Lib Dems. I even feel sorry for Mr Meyer because he's literally, Captain Burnham has just poked him with his cutlass to the end of the plank. Well, certainly that's how it feels anyway. This is wrong. This is totally wrong. The residents of Leicestershire do not want this. I represent an area, as I've said before in this chamber, that wasn't particularly overly bothered about it. It was miles away. It didn't really affect them until a couple of weeks ago when it actually happened. And they're ringing me and they're asking me, Craig, what's happening? What will this mean for us? And I'll say quite simply, we'll have a lot of the service demand, but we won't have all of the money that we currently had. And that is what is going to make a massive difference to the residents of North West Leicestershire to Colville North, because they're going to feel it in their pocket. The service funding is not going to be there. And also, if they do end up pushing this through, Charnwood Borough and North West Leicestershire have taken thousands of houses from the city because apparently they've got no room to grow. Well, surely they should have that back if that's the case. He's not mentioned that. This is one man's ego trip. You know, we've all heard about the fabled picture on the wall of the expanded city that's been there since 1901 or whenever it was. But it's there. This is an ego trip. It is not for the residents of Leicestershire. And a few members have talked about how much this will actually cost. I'd love to know if the members of the public don't want us to spend your money in fighting this, because I'd fight it. We're here to fight it. We were elected to fight this. So, Madam Chairman, I do think this council should fight it, and I do think we should oppose an enlarged city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. So my division of Gartree, for those who don't know where that is, that's part of, this is going to be split in two, basically, by these proposals. And the historic communities of Great Glen, Newton Harcourt, Wistow and the Strettons are now scheduled to join many, many other historic county communities in forming the new Leicester Council. This isn't minor tinkering, as was said to me by one of our colleagues of the opposition groups, with boundaries, but wholesale annexation. Over a 250,000 people of the current Leicestershire county will be merged with the current city. But I'm a bit confused with this motion, because this was an opportunity to have a united political message, as we had recently wearing my other hat as a Harbour District Council, cross-party. But unfortunately, this motion has been politicised by the Lib Dem group because it's full of the Lib Dem wish list. And I think that is unfortunate and regrettable that they have done that. And I'm not really sure how and why Reform are supporting them, because it keeps talking about the Lib Dems. The other, a lot of people are saying, well, why has the city expanded? Well, the Secretary of State, the former Secretary of State, Mr. Reid, was very clear why it's been expanded. It's they need more land to build all those houses. And unfortunately, some of our councils have actually helped them do it by putting forward massive local plan expansion areas. In my own council, before it was taken over by the Blue Team, the former Lib Dem and Rainbow Coalition submitted a local plan that allocates a huge new town in Great Glen. And lo and behold, what's been annexed by the proposed city expansion? The new town area. So, just to pick up this North City South proposal, the government rejected that. I see no merit in revisiting that. It's not something I was supportive of. As I said, I think this could have been an opportunity, and could still be an opportunity, to speak with a strong united voice. But my concern at the moment is this has been politicised by the Lib Dem group for their own parochial interest, to do with their own backyard of Hinckley and Bosworth, and that is my concern. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Piper.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. We've heard that the idea of this land grab is to help bail out the city financially. We've also heard now, just from Councillor King, it's to bail them out on their need for land for growing houses. I suggest there is another reason, and it's gerrymandering. We know that the inner city centres are far more liable to vote for the government than this particular government than not, and I believe that they are worried whether or not they will stay in power at the next general election, and they have deliberately changed the boundaries purely on that political ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Galton.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. It is a very sad day. Not a sad day that we've come together to give our views about this, but that we're having to do this in these circumstances of this being, frankly, imposed on us. And I think we probably all expected that the city boundary wouldn't stay exactly the same and there would be some expansion. But what we're seeing here is a massive extent of that expansion, the scale of that expansion, to the point where the city will become bigger than the county in terms of the population. And the areas that will be removed and taken out of the county and the districts and moved into the city is going to make the disaggregation, I think the leader made this point, where services are provided from, assets, and so on and so forth. And I'm probably the only member who remembers this being done in any way, shape or form back in 97 when the city became a unitary and Rotherham became a unitary as well. And that was not easy, particularly around, it was very, very difficult, particularly around museums and other really important, valued community facilities and so on. But at least it made sense in the sense that they didn't alter the historic boundaries. And these boundaries have existed for many, many years. And it's the separate identity that people feel with their parish status, and they feel they belong to those communities, and the character of those communities are completely different from the city. The city doesn't have parishes, it doesn't do parishes, it doesn't understand that, it doesn't understand rural issues. And you know, maybe the council's going to be different in the future. Maybe this can be stopped, I don't know. But it seems to me that Mr. Reid pretty much accepted lock, stock and barrel, exactly what the city mayor asked for. He even claimed in his speech, did he not, totally misleading, that there was cross-party agreement on the proposal. That is so misrepresented. I'm surprised he wasn't pulled up more on that. The only saving thing, of course, has been said a few days later. He was shuffled off out of his job. So my division, like Mr. King, is actually cut in two. It's chopped. Half of it would be in the city authority and half of it would be in the rural authority. And the residents I represent just don't understand. They're creating an absolutely new, completely artificial boundary. Now, I'd just like to say a bit about the situation with the financial viability and sustainability, again, that the leaders talked about. The concern is the city will be so large and the assets it will take and so on. I hope our officers and the leadership is asking the officers to look at this, whether or not the new authority, which will, you know, we have this massive deficit, will be viable, will be sustainably and economically able to run and provide those services if such a large chunk of the area is taken out and dragged into the city. And then finally, Madam Chairman, just like to contrast that, why we've been picked on in this sense. Oxfordshire, for example, look at some of what's proposed in some of the other areas. 750,000 population, Oxford City considerably smaller, but they're going to get three authorities, a South Oxfordshire, North Oxfordshire and a city. Some tinkering of the boundaries to make Oxford City a bit bigger, nothing on the scale of what's being proposed here in Leicestershire. So it's hard to come to any other conclusion that there is politics at work here, and what in fact has happened is that the city mayor, Sir Peter, has put his proposals into the Labour government and has pretty much been granted what he asked for. And yes, we do need to do everything we can to oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Squires.
Thank you, Lady Chairman. I'm happy to support this Liberal Democrat motion. This council must condemn the government's plan to drag 250,000 residents into Leicester City. The public consultation was very, very clear. 88% of respondents responded against being absorbed into Leicester City. And I think basically what's happened here is that after years of socialist financial chaos, mismanagement and millions spent on rubbish red cycle lanes all over the place, the problem that Sir Peter has is that he's simply running out of other people's money. Now he wants to do the same for Leicestershire. And what could we have to look forward to? Higher tax, higher debt, net zero initiatives? No. So I note Ms Pendlebury's point regarding North City South. I'd like to just gently push back on that. There are 10 councils involved in these proposals. Out of that 10, 8 out of 10 submitted North City South. So that option absolutely was considered by government. So it is a government decision. Obviously, our group has a different position on that. But all of the options were modelled and everything was submitted, and ultimately it was a government decision. It may have been not have been our preferred decision, but it is their decision. Ultimately, a Labour minister decided to back a Labour mayor. The administration's considering legal options, and we will continue to fight, as we always have, for every inch of Leicestershire. And to Mr Mayor, I would say ultimately we did try to negotiate. This council stopped us. You voted against it. We said that if we did not negotiate, this is what would happen. And here we are. So, you know, just to add, if we told government essentially to stuff it, do you really think they're just going to back off and leave us? They're not, to get the worst outcome possible.
Thank you. Mr Chapman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say what Kevin said earlier. We're unusual. We're a two-seat ward from two different parties, but our residents are united. They don't want to be connected with the city whatsoever. I agree with what Craig said. A third of the people out there today at the demonstration were from this village here, where I live, which is Glenfield. And they don't care if we spend money from this council to fight this, and I think this council should legally fight this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr Grimley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's good to see so many people from the public here today in the gallery. Last time we had the people here and the protest reform across there voted against saying no to the expansion, but they have actually now come around, which I do welcome that. But let's get it right. As I rightly say, they were originally wanting to negotiate with Leicester City Council to lose areas like Birstall, Thurmaston, Syston and other areas, but well, now it's good to see them that they have come round. So that's a good point. I don't want to pick up on all that's been spoken. I just wanted to mention to Mr Mayor at this stage, he does seem to have forgotten that the Leicester Mayor did block devolution in Leicestershire as a year or couple of years ago. Why did he block it? We don't know. We just think it was his ego. He didn't want another mayor in
Mr
Leicestershire.
Grimley, could you speak through the chair, please?
Sorry, I'll speak. Sorry, I was looking at my notes, actually. Thank you. Very good point regarding the parishes and town councils. Leicester City Council don't have any parishes or town councils. We're going to end up with, if we do expand the boundaries, we're going to end up with a two-tier authority. One tier has parish councils, the other tier doesn't. People in the parish councils, in the parish council areas, will be paying for services in their areas, and then they'll be paying extra money to Leicester City Council to maintain the parks in Leicester City and that sort of thing, which I think if it did go ahead, the only fair way would be to charge Leicester City residents an additional tax to pay for those sorts of things. Now, unlike I think most people here, I actually lived and grew up in Leicester City. I'm born and bred Leicester for my sins. So I lived in Leicester and I saw how badly it had declined under the late Labour administration, particularly when compared to other cities that I had lived in. So it's just been an abject failure over the years by Labour, not thinking out policies properly, spending lots of money, and then the residents have to pay for that. There are two theatres in Leicester, people don't know that. One sits there empty with car parking, another one is quite popular, has no car parking, so people can't get to it. So it's just crazy situation. But growing up in Leicester, I really noticed a lot of identity of the old villages that were there. Evington Village, Ayleston Village. As I was growing up, there was a sense of pride, community in these villages, and that had really been eroded and just became part of a massive sort of Leicester City Council area. And these areas on the outside of Leicester had always been neglected, because of course Sir Peter likes his expensive city centre projects. Leicester Railway Station, well, that's being redeveloped for the fourth or fifth time at the moment. Each time we're told it will solve all the problems, it hasn't. More expensive failures that really we should be paying for as residents of Leicestershire. I think another failure is their empty cycle lanes in Leicester. We did have experimental cycle lanes in Birstall. We actually looked at it and said, these don't actually work, we'll get rid of them. And that's what the people wanted in Birstall. We gave it a chance, they were empty, waste of time. And money. In Bristol, I mean, I've spoken to numerous residents, and the overwhelming response is that they are very, very angry about this decision, and they do want to see this being re-looked at. This anger is echoed by residents all around in mid Leicestershire. We've got one next to us, Broadnook, Croxton, Ferguson, Anstey, Syston, Thurmaston, and the other villages around. I mean, Beeby, which is a small hamlet, is going to be part of Leicester City. I mean, crazy, but that's the sort of plan. I think it's important that we do send a strong message to the government. We have got a new Prime Minister. Maybe he'll listen. We've had all the Leicestershire, well, all bar one of the Leicestershire MPs. Unfortunately, Amanda Hatt didn't turn up. I didn't see her. I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong on that, but maybe she could have taken an interest and talked to people, because it's not just the people who are affected by the expansion, but it's the people outside of the expansion that are also going to be affected as well. They're going to get poorer services in the outer donut, especially, as well as those within the Leicester City area. So, I mean, really, I just want to conclude that that there is a lot of anger about this by residents. We need to listen to our residents, and we need to give that message across to the government, and hopefully, we have got a new Prime Minister, and hopefully they will listen, which would be good. So that's really what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Page.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm absolutely stunned. National politics, local politics, gerrymandering. You know, I don't really care. What I do know, it is that this is dividing our communities. My bin could be emptied on a Monday, once a fortnight, my neighbours every week or whatever. We don't know what the future brings. And I do know one thing for certain. This should not be about politics. This should be about us all working together and to fight for our communities. Now, I'm fully aware that we have a 450 MP strong Labour government, and I know that they will call the shots, but this shouldn't make us at any time stop working together to get a better and a more desired outcome. When I actually look at the proposal, and never mind what has gone on before, whether it's north or west or east or south, but when we actually look at the proposal which was forced onto us, it's actually one Leicestershire, except we took the donut out. And because it's not viable, maybe in the rural areas, to deliver adult social care, we'll just keep the bit that gives us the best income, the best business rates, and the best building opportunities. Now, I thought that LGR was all about creating a well-balanced unitary that works for the benefit of the residents of Leicestershire. But all I see in front of me, it's a financial rescue for the city's administration. And all of this is just at the cost of all our residents. Now, when I look on the past as city, well, the housing agenda doesn't work. The building agenda doesn't work. There are so many shortcomings, yet the city has always received more grants than Leicestershire. We were the lowest funded, but we provided some of the best services. Leicester City had money thrown at them. And what do I see in return? Cycle lanes, disability parking, maybe a done-up station. But it worries me that going forward with all of the income and all of what the proposal shows me, that maybe they can't be trusted to run the proposed unitary. What also worries me no end, it is the mentality of the city. They have always opposed to the rural ideal. And most of us have moved into rural areas not to be associated with the city, not to have 10 minutes bus services. We wanted to live in rural areas because we wanted to be disconnected from all of this. So when this came out of the blue, I was extremely disappointed, and I felt that we were all sold down the river. Our residents, the voters, the council taxpayer, everybody in Leicestershire was disadvantaged. And I'm still asking myself, what for? To give Sir Peter Salisbury a knighthood? I'm not sure. Well, oh, yes, he's got one. Fancy that. He's got one. Maybe, well, let's make him a lord, shall we? So, anyway, all I can say it is I'm very, very disappointed. I'm looking forward to us all working together to put our political differences behind us, to make it, to stand united and win or lose, but we've got to keep fighting. So let's fight together.
Thank you. We will now break for 15 minutes for a refreshment break. Mrs Taylor, I understand that you no longer wish your amendment. Mr Mullaney.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I will withdraw our amendment.
Thank you. Mr Mullaney, to make a further alteration to your motion.
Yes, please, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Sorry, Madam Chair, point of order. I thought the seconder had to accept withdrawal as well.
I do.
Mr Smith, do you agree?
I accept the withdrawal.
I do.
Mr Bray, do you accept the alteration? We therefore return to the original motion as altered, moved by Mr Mullaney. We will continue with the debate on the original motion. Are there any members who are entitled to speak on the motion who now wish to do so?
Point of order, please. I don't know what the new motion is. The amendment.
You should have had a bit of paper come round. I'll read it out to everybody. Everybody should have had a bit of paper put in front of them. You have not. Okay, I will read it out. So it is to do with point 3 on the original motion, which says, this council notes that the Liberal Democrat group opposes the government's proposal to put the rest of Leicestershire and Rutland into one unitary authority, believing such an authority will be too remote from many residents. So the alteration is the addition of these words. They also oppose city expansion. This council also notes that the Reform and Conservative groups support a one Leicestershire council with no expansion of the city.
Mrs Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you to all the group leaders and the Greens, the Independent, the Restore, and Mr Mayor for coming to speak to us all and coming together. Today is just about making sure that we send a united view to the government, and I think that's what we've achieved. Sorry it's took this long to get to this point, but we are there. So whether you personally support reorganisation, oppose reorganisation, support one unitary, 2 unitaries, 3 unitaries, or some other model entirely, I hope we all agree on one fundamental principle. When the government asks people for their views, those views should genuinely matter. Public consultation cannot simply be a box-ticking exercise. If residents take the time to engage with the process, they're entitled to expect that their voices will be heard and given proper weight. The revised motion therefore makes clear that this council opposes the expansion of the current Leicester City Council boundaries and believes that communities should not be transferred into a Leicester unitary authority against their wishes. It also asks entirely reasonable questions about how the government reached its conclusions. Were consultation responses properly considered? Were all the available options assessed fairly? Was sufficient weight given to the evidence on financial sustainability, service delivery and long-term viability? These are not partisan questions, these are questions of good governance. That is why this revised motion ensures that the Council obtains independent legal advice from Council on the robustness and lawfulness of the government's decision-making process. If that advice indicates legitimate concerns, then it's only right that the Council considers every option available to it, including judicial review, to protect the interests of our residents. Seeking legal advice does not predetermine any action. It is simply the responsible thing to do when significant decisions affecting future governance of hundreds of thousands of people are being made. Finally, the amendment recognises the importance of democratic accountability throughout this process. Should the government's timescales slip beyond May 28, there must be a democratic vote on the new districts and boroughs, City and Rutland. I hope all members in the Chamber can see today that we're not playing party politics. This is far too important for that. Whatever our political differences, we should be united in standing up for our residents, respecting the outcome of the consultation and ensuring that decisions of this magnitude are properly justified. We need to send a strong, united message to government that the voices of Leicester residents matter and deserve to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr Innes.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, members and residents. I want to start today by
commending what local councils do so well. Joel, I'm going to congratulate you, actually. I was in Charnwood, I was in Loughborough on Sunday for the summer concerts at the Queen's Park Bandstand, and that's the traditions we should be holding on to. And the strong community turnout for the Melton Band shows us what local councils can do. And I've got to say, the flowers, the plants, everything was vibrant. It was a real treat to go. And that's the benefit of local democratic decision making. Councils that know their place, know their people, and protect what makes us Leicestershire. Which is why I'm so concerned about what's being proposed now. My core concern is this. This Labour government plan for local government reform is tearing up the historic boundaries of our county and threatening our local traditions, towns and villages. They are creating 2 new unitary councils that disregard the historic lines of Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, taking a black marker pen to a map and drawing a circle around the city and absorbing towns and villages that are proud to be part of the great county of Leicestershire. The tired old party talks about democracy and upholding democratic principles. Don't make me laugh. They are only interested in a democracy when it suits them. Andy Burnham, this guy that says he's the self-confessed man of the people, has said, our unwritten and murky constitutional arrangements have had the effect of hoarding power in a small number of hands in Whitehall and Westminster. Chair, that's what we're seeing here. In the public consultation, the overwhelming majority of residents said no to the chosen option of city expansion. People across the county spoke with one voice. They don't want this. And yet this proposal is still being driven forward, not by residents, by Whitehall, Whitehall and Westminster, by the Labour government. Strange they chose the least popular option. That was sponsored by the Labour mayor. I call that murky. That is power being hoarded, not power being given back to communities. This plan isn't just about redrawing maps. It takes large chunks of business rates and council tax away from Leicestershire and Rutland and hands them to Leicester City. Millions will be wasted on the cost of additional reorganisation of boundaries, and we lose economies of scale. A smaller county has less bargaining power, less resilience, and less money to spread across all our services. We're already one of the lowest funded councils in the country, so this will directly reduce opportunities not only for the county and Rutland, but also for my town, Melton Mowbray. Less money for road repairs, less for rural services, less to invest in our market town and food heritage. Melton, along with others, will pay the price for a reorganisation it didn't ask for. Why are we having to change the boundaries? Well, simply to accommodate a Labour-run city council that squanders its resources, wastes taxpayers' money and builds debt way beyond its means. More money for the city means less for Leicestershire and Rutland, which will have a direct knock-on effect for Melton Mowbray. They want to concrete over the fields and green wedges that separate our towns. The land that gives us clean air and stops one community merging into the next. Syston, Glenfield, Enderby, these places have their own history, their own high streets. Bolt them onto Greater Leicester, and that identity is lost forever. Chair, I'm not against change, I'm against bad decisions. Decisions that prioritises political influence and gain. Change that rewards a poorly managed Labour-controlled city at the expense of a well-run Reform UK-controlled county. Change based on political ideology rather than trusting the people of Leicestershire to make their own decisions. The public have spoken. They said no. So I'm calling on this council today. Let's stand as one, and I'm really glad we are. now. Reject city expansion, defend our historic county boundaries, protect our traditions, protect all of our towns and villages, protect Leicestershire. Because if we allow our bandstands, our communities and our finances to be swallowed up to feed Labour's plans, then we will have failed the very people we were elected to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. North.
Thank you. Totally agree with what my colleague just said there. He summed it up nicely. Madam Chair and the members, the current situation is the government has made its decision. From April 2028, it intends to create 2 unitary authorities across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, subject to parliamentary approval. So our responsibility now is not simply to oppose that decision, but to scrutinise it. And to ask the questions our residents will understandably be asking us, and they are asking, where is the evidence? Where is the evidence demonstrating that the communities being moved into an expanded Leicester Authority support that change? Where is the clear explanation of how residents' consultation responses were considered and how much weight was given to them and how they influenced the final decision? Where is the detailed financial evidence showing residents what this transition will cost, when the promised savings will materialise, and what council tax harmonisation could mean for individual households? And where are the guarantees around the services upon which some of our most vulnerable residents depend upon? For families relying upon SEN provision, EHCPs, school provisions, this cannot simply become an administrative exercise. For somebody receiving adult social care, they need to know that changing the name and geography of their council will not interrupt their service or care. And for residents concerned about highways, flooding, infrastructure, planning and development, they need to know where decisions will be made and who will be accountable for them. In communities across Blaby, Leicestershire, people identify strongly with their towns, villages and parishes. Local government reorganisation must not mean the loss of local identity, nor the creation of a government that feels even further removed from the people it's supposed to serve. And there is an important principle here. Reorganisation should not have to demonstrate better government. It should have to demonstrate better government, not simply bigger government. If this new structure is genuinely going to save taxpayers' money, improve services and strengthen local government, then government should have no difficulty publishing the evidence demonstrating that. And where communities are being transferred across existing boundaries, residents deserve a clear explanation of why their community was selected and how their voices influenced that decision. Parliament still has a role because these changes remain subject to parliamentary approval. I therefore want every MP representing Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland to understand the concerns expressed by this council and, more importantly, by the communities we represent. Whatever our political parties, surely we do agree on these things. Local accountability, democratic legitimacy, financial sustainability, protection of frontline services and value for taxpayers. If this reorganisation cannot meet those tests, then the government must explain why it believes the residents should accept this. And if it can meet them, then it should publish the evidence and prove it. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Poland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The government have treated the people of Leicestershire with contempt. Okay? 47,000 people took the time to fill in that at times quite complex form online. I did it myself, so I know, okay, to give their views, and 88% of those people were opposed to the plan, and the government brought it in anyway. What does that say for localism? To me, that says one thing. Localism means we listen to the local Labour mayor of Leicester and no one else. And this is a pattern that we've seen across the country, here in Leicester, but also just up the road in Nottingham, in Exeter, in Plymouth, in Lincoln, in Brighton and Hove, in Oxford. All of these places, the government have just gone with what the local Labour authority have put off the shelf, and that says to me everything you need to know about how serious the government are in terms of listening to the people. Transparency. What is the transparency in this process? Why was the views of Sir Peter Soulsby more important than the 47,000 people that took part in the process? Why was his views more important than us in this chamber? Why was his views more important than all of the residents that are here today, that have come to the protest last year, that have signed petition and after petition showing their concern about the expansion of Leicester? Where did that come in decision making? I haven't seen the evidence. I want to see the evidence, and I think we deserve to see that evidence, to see the biggest change in half a century. Then this comes to the finances of what the government have proposed. So we all know probably better than anyone, that Leicestershire County Council is currently the lowest funded county council in the country, with a projected massive budget deficit. That's as we are. And the solution the government have come to that is to move thousands of taxpayers into the city. So the county has still got all the services to provide that we have today, but they have thousands of less taxpayers to do it, and the business rates that come from Foss Park and all of the other businesses that are on the edge of the city, the area being took in, have been ignored. As a colleague said before, the government have simply gone, what does Sir Peter want? This is a problem that suits Sir Peter Soulsby, and we won't even think about the effect on the rest of the county. Again, that is treating the people of Leicestershire with disdain, and I, for one, am totally opposed to it. People in my division, people in Quellinborough, a historic village that dates back to the Domesday Book, people in Syston, places that have been formed by the county, that the history of is impacted by its rurality, the countryside, and the farming communities that have done so much for our areas. These are not suburbs of the city. They do not identify with the city. They are not in any meaningful sense part of the city, and yet the government is dragging them wholesale into a city it doesn't identify with. That is a disgrace. I'm pleased, therefore, that we today will say as one voice, we are opposed to the city expansion. We will not stand idly by while the government transforms our county out of all recognition, and we will send a message from all parties, from all parts of our county, to Westminster. We will not stand for this.
Thank you, Mr Bradshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My division of Syston Ridgeway responded soundly with a no to being drawn inside the city boundary. The emails and comments I've received since this plan was published show the depth of feeling my residents have against this. Syston has thatched cottages, cobbled streets, and the oldest brick-built house in Leicestershire, dating to 1686. We also have a strong community that cares for each other. What we don't want are chicken shops, red cycle lanes, strange building projects that somehow never get finished. The village of Wanlip is in its own right as a thriving community, is very rural and does not belong within the city expansion. I'm particularly concerned by the line in the city's proposal that says boundary expansion will help balance the city's tax base. So is this local government reorganisation or a financial rescue package for Leicester City? I support this motion to redress this appalling situation and decision made by a previous Secretary of State for Housing and Local Government who is no longer even in the role. If the government is so sure they are right on this, and this is what Leicestershire residents want, why didn't they give them a vote? Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs Seaton.
Oh, right, okay, thank you. I wasn't going to speak today. I haven't really prepared anything at all for speaking today. And I feel quite moved, which is very dangerous for a woman of my age. But that we are all speaking in unison. We're all united in our thoughts here. Lots of comments have been said about the finances. I mean, that just blows my mind, thinking about how on earth that is going to save money. We've got 7 districts that have managed their bank accounts very well, and the city will have those bank accounts and it will squander them. So what happens after that has been gone? But what hasn't been spoken about are the houses, because Sir Peter Salisbury, the Labour Party, or whatever, I don't think we can put it just on his head, although I would like to, that they haven't got room to expand. They have got room to expand. I come from Thurmaston, and as you know, a lot of people in Thurmaston think they might be in the city. A lot of the city ones on Humberston Lane think they're in Thurmaston, and that they want to be in the county here. And I've got a SU on my doorstep, Suburban Urban Extension, of 4,500 houses. 2,000 of those houses are Leicester City's quota. Because they haven't got the land to expand within the city, we have to have a duty of cooperation. And so have the other 6 districts around as well. So I'm having to take, look at me. Thurmaston's having to take 2,000. You've got Harborough having to take some. You've got Anstey. You've got all of these areas taking those, the houses that is the quota for Leicester City as well as our own quota. And that is appalling. And for nothing else, I just, you know how your mom says when you lose temper, or I say to my grandchildren, count to 10. Well, I'm still flipping well counting because I am fuming and I am appalled at this, and I will want us to unite and fight it as much as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Page.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and all the residents, thank you very much for coming today on this important occasion. Leicestershire is not being reorganised. It is to be asset stripped instead. On the 16th of July, Whitehall called it reorganisation. It was nothing of the sort. Oadby and Wigston, 16 parishes from Blaby, 11 from Charnwood, 7 from my own Harbour district, Great Glen, Little Stretton, Newton Harcourt, Scraptoft, Stoughton, Thurnby and Bushby, Willoughby, Waterleys and Wistow. Villages that have stood for centuries, fed to the snapping jaws of a land-hungry city. The county said no. Every district and borough said no. Rutland said no. In the government's own consultation, almost 9 out of 10 opposed it. 9 out of 10 ignored. We were consulted the way a condemned building is consulted. One man who's lived in Leicester all his life wrote to me and actually said, don't let them ruin the Shire. Not a county voice, a city one. Even Sir Peter's own residents can see what this is. The Red Knight told the government what he wanted, and Labour handed Sir Peter the county. He was the only council to back the plan, the one taking the land. It cannot afford the residents it has, but it's just been given 250,000 more. A city that could not fill its own empty spaces has been handed ours. What's left of Leicestershire is a rump, 250,000 people lighter, the same roads, the same costs. The gritting routes don't shorten, the care packages don't disappear, only the number of people paying for them. My residents and yours will pay more for less. And I'll add one last thing to this. You can move a boundary, but you cannot move where people are from. Just ask Rutland. I support the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Abbott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's very encouraging to hear everybody united, apart from probably 0.09%. But it is encouraging. I've lived in Leicester all my life, in the county, and I'm now going to find myself in the city. So, like 250,000 others are going to find themselves in the city. But I think we need to learn a lesson today, and that lesson is learn from your mistakes. Now, I'm going to read you a story, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to explain the reason, approximately 15 months ago, is how we are here today discussing this. Our employers, that's the residents of Leicester, we shouldn't forget that, they're our employers. And residents, they pay the bills. They pay us to do the best for them. And if we let them down, then we should be disgraced, literally. We should be ashamed of ourselves. So, the good people, the residents, our employers of LCC, realised things weren't going too well after 24 years of trusting the same management team. And rightly so, feared the ship was heading for the rocks. Now, with this concern, the employers democratically put a vote, and sure enough, most decided they liked what the new employees were saying. And they put their faith in them. And the new management team was formed. Now, some employers decided that the old ways were best, thus resulting in a three-way split. Unfortunately, with a 0.09%, which is probably insignificant. Now, some employees decided to accept the new administration, and that was great. But others clearly did not. And they vowed to make it as difficult as possible for the new administration because they still believe they should be in charge. Now, employees, the residents of Leicester, the payees, sorry, lost a little bit there, realised there was another company operating, supplying the same products as us. And they realised they were strong competition, knowing that they had more influence within the industry, and the new management team tried to preempt this by making a powerful...
I'm sorry, Chair, point of order. Are we talking to the motion?
Yes. Yes. We're learning from mistakes. So, it is. You'll get it. So, the management team tried to preempt this by making everybody aware what could happen if we tried to go head-to-head with them. Now, the best results for the employers would be to put a proposal in and get exactly what we wanted. Unfortunately, unknowing to the new administration, a deal had probably been already done. And this resulted in where we are today. Now, our employers demand answers now, and rightly so. The public, the residents. Now, we need to get behind them. We need to get behind the council, LCC, and we need to fight this as best we can. Now, with chance, we'll fight this. Come and protest with us, etc. Well, we can do all that, but still, it's probably not going to do us that much better. We'd probably be better fighting this in the courts of law, and hopefully our voices will be heard. I also like to remind people that if you can't be the captain, don't try and sink the ship. It doesn't work. But the people who are crewing that ship probably need to decide when to jump ship. Now, for all the voters and for all the people, our employers of Leicestershire, they want us to run a company that will prosper, thrive, deliver services competitively and efficiently. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Any other speakers? No. As Mr Bray reserved his remarks as seconder of the original motion, I now invite him to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The government, and I want to thank everybody who has contributed to the debate and also for the people who have stayed, particularly ones who have stayed till the end for your stamina. This government's announcement of local government reorganisation is, in my view, the worst of all the possible options they could have picked. It creates two large, cumbersome, remote councils that do not reflect natural communities and, in my view, will be an unmitigated disaster. We heard the ministerial announcement from the Baroness Taylor, the former chair of the District Councils Network, the champion of two-tier local government, of small councils delivering for the local community. Well, it simply beggars belief. Judas was famously paid 30 pieces of silver. It seems the rate these days is an ermine robe and a ministerial limo. At the last council meeting, I was criticised by Mr Mear for seconding a motion, which I did so because of the strong and overwhelming concerns of my constituents, because that is why I'm here to represent them. I cannot believe for one moment that the speech we heard from him today is what the majority of his constituents in Charnwood believe. I can't help but wonder if it's not only Baroness Taylor who is eyeing up the leather benches in Westminster. And I hope the Greens in Charnwood don't allow him to sell the district short. This is the biggest shake-up of local government in several generations. Not a single person has cast a ballot to say if they agree. It wasn't in the government's manifesto. They do not have a mandate to do this. And the consultation has shown that it's gone down like a bucket of cold sick. Let's hope our new unelected Prime Minister takes at least one leaf from his predecessor and makes this his first U-turn. The government have gone with the bid put forward by the City Mayor, nothing more than a stitch-up cooked up in the Labour Club. And what this government is doing is scrapping local government. People say, of course they've not. All they're doing is creating two new councils. Well, if you think a council that stretches from Hinckley to Oakham, from Markfield to Market Harborough, from Burbage to Botchesford, taken in Loughborough, Melton, Ashby, Colville along the route is local, then you and I clearly have a very different definition. I'm afraid these proposals, though, were entirely predictable. In fact, my colleague here said so in this chamber. I think it was a grave mistake putting together the one county bid, but we are where we are with that. But if you had embraced the common sense arguments put forward by the cross-party districts and Rutland, I believe the results would have been very different. Who does this change benefit? It won't be the people in my division in Hinckley Bosworth or any of the other districts who will have to potentially have to travel miles to get issues resolved. When things go wrong, local government is usually the first port of call. It won't be council staff who will face huge upheaval, many in cases redundancy. And it won't be the taxpayers, because elsewhere in the country LGR has been proven to be costly and not saved any money at all. The only people who will benefit is the failing Labour administration in the city, a council who, according to the press, over the last couple of years are on the verge of bankruptcy and have consistently failed to find their share of housing targets. You don't have to take my word for this. The government couldn't be any clearer in their letter. Some of our smaller cities are highly productive but have been constrained by tight boundaries set decades ago, which will stop them from building the homes they need. They also talk about rebalancing wealth. It is as clear as day. They want your greenfields and they want your council tax to fix the mess that every Labour administration at every level always makes. The public verdict is clear. People do not want these plans. Mayor Salisbury was knighted by the late Queen
for services to local government. In my view, his proposal is the biggest disservice to local government that he could have done, and he should be stripped of that knighthood for the immense damage he's doing to local government. I have made it very clear, and apologies, I'm going off standing orders, but I've made it very clear as leader of Hinckley and Bosworth, and we've had a debate about whether this is good use of money. Hinckley and Bosworth will take this to court, and I hope that all the other district councils and the county council back us in our bid. I am very clear what this will mean. Decisions taken further away from local people who don't know the area as well and don't know the districts like we do. It will cost more and you will get less. Andy Burnham tells us he believes in localism. He tells us he's a straight-talking, no-nonsense northerner. Well, here's some straight-talking from an Hinckley lad.
Mr Bray, can you
I'm on my last
conclude your
sentence, Madam
sentence?
Mayor. I'm on my last sentence. This isn't devolution. It's destruction of local government. It's a total disaster, and you should drop the crazy plan now.
Thank you. Mr Mullaney, would you like to exercise your right to reply again before we move to the vote?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I wanted to start by saying thank you to everyone who has this afternoon spoken in support of the motion and against the government's plans. I think there has been a general consensus. And thank you to the members of the public who have sat very patiently through a very long debate. I called this meeting today and put this motion forward today because I believed it was something that was of concern to many residents, and the fact that you've stayed for so long shows the concern people have, and the same to everybody who is watching this debate on YouTube as well. The government proposals are wrong. The Prime Minister talks about devolution, but the reality is this isn't devolution. It's about taking decision-making away from local people and making decision-making further away from people. People don't want to be dragged into an expanded Leicester City against their will. The Labour leader spoke about local government funding. The reality is that under the Labour government, Leicestershire is the worst funded county council in the country, and if the Labour proposals get their way, the financial viability of Leicestershire will be greatly undermined by people being moved from Leicestershire into Leicester City. This is not good news for council taxpayers in Leicestershire. The reality is we, united today, oppose city expansion. We oppose the government's plans. We call on them to think again. Let's take this opportunity now to vote through this motion and make it loud and clear to the Labour government. It's time to change this disastrous policy. We do not support your proposals for reorganisation. We do not support city expansion. We do not support villages and towns being forced into Leicester City against their will. Let's support this motion today and send a very strong message to the government. It's time to get your hands off Leicestershire's towns and villages.
Madam Chairman, we would like a recorded vote, please.
Mr Abbott. Mr Bailey. Not here. Dr Bloxham. Mr Bohm. Mr Bowles. Mrs Bottomley. Mr Bradshaw. Mr Bray. Mrs Broadley. Miss Butler. Not here. Mr Chapman.
For.
Mr Charlesworth. Mr Cook. Mr Crook. Mrs Danks. Mr Durrani. Mr England. Mr Fowler. Mr Galton. Mr Gamble. Mr Grimley. Mr Hamilton Gray. Mr Dan Harrison. Mr Paul Harrison. Dr Hill. Mr Holt. No. Mr Innes. Mr King. Mrs Knight. No. Mr Lovegrove. Mr MacDonald. Mr Meelan. Mr Mear. Mr Morris? Mr Mullaney? Dr North?
4.
Mr O'Shea? No. Mr Orson? Mr Page? Mrs Page? Mrs Pendlebury? Mr Piper?
4.
Mr Poland? Mr Pugsley? Mr Akiki? No. Mr Robinson?
4.
Mrs Seaton? Mr Smith? Mr Squires?
4.
Mr Tilbury? No. No, you're there. Mr Walker? Mr Whitford? Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 45? Yeah. So the results of the vote are 45 in favour and 1 against. So this motion is carried.
Thank you, members. That concludes today's meeting.